Welcome back, everyone. So what we're going to be doing is, in this video, I'm going to be recording this over a couple of different days, and we'll be progressing little by little. At this point, every part needed is either has already arrived or is on its way. We've already painted the deck. Again, I used a product called SEM or SEM. Self-etching primer, which comes in a flat black, and that gave us a really nice bonding layer for the Rust-Oleum. Is it Carmine red I used, or is it something else? Let's see. But it's a pretty good approximation of the original Toro red. It's called Sunrise Red, and that Sunrise Red I used on all the metal parts that were painted red from the factory. One thing I did a little differently is I took this belt cover, and somebody had used it as they put their foot on the belt cover rather than on the step pad for starting the engine. And what that's done is it's worn a nice heavy, it's scratched the shit out of it. So I painted it with a metallic plastic paint, and I'm not happy with the finish. I'm going to repaint this, but I have to sand it smooth again, and then we're going to paint it with a different color. So this was originally red. I actually looked up to try to find another one of these that isn't scratched like this, but it must be a common problem with this mower that people use this as a step rather than right here, which is what this is for. So, hey, whatever. In the meantime, I have the blade clutch bearing right here, and I consider replacing the bearing. It comes as an assembly, and this assembly is $80, but this bearing is still good. But what I want to do is inject some fresh grease into it, just because. I think it couldn't hurt. So what we're gonna do is I got myself a needle for my grease gun. It's an injection. Oh, there it is. And you just attach this to any standard grease gun, and you can inject grease into sealed bearings. It's sharp. It's a hypodermic style needle, and it can be dangerous. So what I'm going to do is we're going to set up the camera here, and we're going to inject grease, just a little bit of all-purpose lithium grease into this bearing. So let me find my grease gun. I think I had it out set right here. And I'm going to pump some grease through it to make sure it can actually work. Make sure we're injecting clean grease and not some contaminated shit. Okay, yeah, that works. So we're going to affix this to the nipple. Tighten that down. And so we're going to take this and we're going to inject it right between the seal and the bearing inner race, just like that. And we're going to just pump a little bit of grease in there. So this bearing is still good. I kind of want to keep it that way because I don't want to have to replace it. So once the bearing, if it's a sealed bearing, once it starts to get rough, it starts to otherwise develop problems, you can't save it. It's done for. But look at that. Tightens it up nice. And after a few revolutions, that will spread throughout the bearing. Now we got to do the inner one. There's two of them. There's two sealed bearings here. Just why this part costs so much. We're just going to inject it in a few spots. And like I said, that's going to replace or replenish. Is this cartridge really empty already? That can't be. Almost. Okay. So that's going to take care of it. So this bearing will be good for the foreseeable future. I won't be replacing this ever at this point. The seals are still doing their job. Everything is nice and sealed up. I think I want to get a little more in there. We're not poking into the seal. We're just kind of going right around it. Right where it meets the inner race. Okay. That should do her. So there's no damage to the seal. And any grease that naturally leaked out will have been replaced. Just like that. Just like that. So, look at that. Nice and smooth. Now you can only do that if the bearing is still actually good. Once the bearing is used up and contaminated with sand and water and silt and shit, once that occurs, it's no longer savable, and it's time for a new bearing. But if that doesn't happen, then you can reuse it. So there you go. All right. A good example of that is this bearing here. Now this one, so the difference between these two bearings in the application anyway. So this bearing is in use while the blade is running. So when the blade is running, this bearing is working. This bearing is doing nothing. When the blade is in operation, this bearing is locked up. Well, it is no longer spinning. When you release the handle, the exact opposite is true. This bearing stops moving. This one starts to freewheel. It allows the blade to spin independently of the engine. Which is why this bearing is actually salvageable. This one's still in very good condition. This one is worn out. Now, we could save this bearing, but I'd rather not, because I bought the entire assembly for $15. So there's no point in saving that one. Whereas this one cost $80 and the bearing is still good. So we'll just inject, like I said, we just injected a little bit of grease into it to rejuvenate it a little bit. Ideally, we would take it apart and repack it, but no, rather not do that. So I think we're good here. And after a few hours of use, this thing will be fully and totally rejuvenated. Now we got to take the engine apart. We're going to take the top end off, and we're going to take the flywheel shroud off and the starter. But here's how the transmission looks. It's been repacked with grease. I put way too much grease in it, but that's what the unit looks like, all nice and assembled. But I really packed it in. It was making a lot of noise, when you move the mower back and forth. So I figured it was probably due for some lubricant. So now we need to take the engine shroud off. All right, we're digging in there. And we still got a lot of crap in here. To get to the crankcase breather, we got to pull the flywheel off. So and this cup is full of stuff, and yeah, easy. But we have to get that hose replaced. There's no way around that. From what I understand, this all has to come apart. This is all coming from the crankcase breather. But it looks like some of it could be from, it could be one or the other, or all of the above. So I need to verify the direction. That I think this is counterclockwise. No, clockwise to remove and counterclockwise to install. And you can't really see much of the exposed thread, so I'll have to look that up and see what it's going to take. But I have that impact here I could use to get that off. What a fucking mess. Look at all that oil that just dripped everywhere. It's just absolutely everywhere. So what's happening is the flywheel is blowing air down this way. So it's blowing oil and everything else down this way. It's just making a mess. So we gotta come up with a way to get this done. Okay, I removed the flywheel nut. It is standard lefty loosey, righty tighty. That didn't put up a fight. Now I just need to get this flywheel off. To do that, I'm going to use a mallet and a closest thing I have to a breaker bar. I've been doing it like this for my entire life. I don't have my mallet in here, but I do have this, or I'll use this. So what we're going to do, we're going to put the nut back on to protect the threads. Okay, just like that. And we're gonna give it a good swift kick in the ass. So what I gotta do is put some pressure under the flywheel without breaking. This is an aluminum material, so we don't want to break anything. I'll put it over here. This usually pops them right off. So I don't have a tripod for this phone, so bear with me guys. Here we go. Just really break it free. It's easier when the motor's on the deck. Easier when the motor's on the deck, but we don't have that luxury, so yeah, this one's a little trickier because I don't want to break anything. I can see aluminum bending and I don't like that. There's gotta be a better way. Normally they don't take this much effort to remove, but maybe if I do it this way. All right, just took a few more taps, but we were on the right track, so we got it off. Oh, I gotta take this off, but we're there. Let's bring it down to the basement and finish the job. So let's take a look. Yeah, you don't want to put so much pressure that this starts bending. You got to be very careful. It's not the funnest job in the world, but somebody's got to do it, right? Now this just means that we're going to have to make sure we gap this correctly. I do have the... You know what I used to use as a kid, and this was taught to me by a long-time lawnmower mechanic. I would use a dollar bill to gap the magneto to the flywheel magnet. And it works every time. So here is our crankcase breather. So that's where we got to really focus some of our attention. So we're going to take, oh yeah, this motor fits right in this little pocket. There's a wire thingy there. Anyway, so this is our crankcase breather. Look at how dirty this is. We're going to clean all this up. I'm going to get some more of that, I'm going to get some of that foamy engine cleaner shit. And it looks like our upper seal might be leaking. It might be leaking. But if you look at if you do the forensics here, it looks like a lot of this oil is actually coming down from here and then dripping down. But I do need to change out this hose, so I have to take this apart anyway. So it really isn't not a waste of time for sure. Okay. Let's see what horrors lie under here. That looks really bad. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get more parts cleaner. This is just not acceptable. Okay. All right. Looks like there's a, yeah. Okay, I see where that hose goes. Let me clean some of this off first before I get any of this into the engine. So that goes straight into the crankcase. Don't let anything in there. This is another quart gasket. I'm gonna have to find a way to make a new one of those. Now that's actually a fiber gasket, but a very thick one. We're gonna have to reuse it, I guess. So here's our hose. I'm gonna pull this hose out. Somehow. Looks like it's swollen in there. But oil is getting into here. You can see there's a lot of oil in there and it's dripping around the hose. So we've got oil from multiple locations, multiple sources here. Here's the opposite cover. So it's got this little reed valve in there. We'll have to clean this off. So positive pressure is supposed to force air, allow air to come out under that cover and into the breather, but it's allowing too much oil. So what we're going to do is we're going to pack this with steel wool. I'm going to take a wad of it and stuff it in there. That's going to help hold some of that oil back. As for the hose, she don't want to come out. We need to replace this hose. It's done for. But yeah. All right, I just found a muffler gasket. Those were discontinued from the manufacturer. So when that comes in, I'll take the muffler off. We'll put it in Evapor-Rust, get the rust off of it. We're going to repaint the muffler black or whatever high heat paint I have. The crankcase breather hose is no longer available, cannot be found. It is a special bespoken hose and it is full of oil. So here's what our best bet is this. We need to stop the influx of oil somehow or slow it down. So I'm going to, here's my plan. I'm going to clean this up and we're gonna stuff it full of, we're gonna put some mesh in there, which is going to be in the form of steel wool. And I've got some of the heavier grit stuff. This is what we're going to use, and that will slow down the flow of oil. Try to keep it from blasting out of there. So we've got a combination of factors causing oil everywhere, and it seems to be through overfilling the crankcase, just not being careful when putting oil in the tube and spilling it everywhere. We've got an oil cap that doesn't seal anymore, and we've got a poorly designed crankcase breather. A lot of factors. Now we also have a possible bad engine seal here on the top, but I'm going to start with the cheapest stuff first, and then we'll escalate it. If we have to pull the flywheel off again and do the flywheel or the upper crankshaft seal, we'll do that at a later date. I do need to do some cleanup here really bad. Once I get this cover on, I'm going to scrape away what I can, just kind of pick it off like an archaeologist. Yes. So because I can't get these gaskets anymore, I'm going to reuse the old ones, and I'm just going to seal them with RTV. It's really the only thing I can do at this point. All right, so we're going to stuff some steel wool in there. And you're thinking, well, you think you're smart. Well, I do. But I didn't, I try to think of things that may not be on the minds of everyone. Yes, it's possible that a few fibers could get sucked into the engine, but it's also possible and more likely that the steel wool could be blown into this reed valve and keep it from closing properly, right? That's a possibility, ain't it? Well, I thought about that. So I cut a piece of hardware cloth to sit right on top of this, to sit right on top here. And that hardware cloth is going to prevent the steel wool from getting blown up into the valve, in theory. That's my theory anyway. We don't want anything down in this channel. We just want it, the oil should be able to drain back into the engine. This is how a lot of these PCV valve systems work in motor scooters. I've seen this, a very similar idea used in those. But the system that they implemented doesn't work very well to keep the oil out of the airbox. So consequently, oil gets everywhere. Everywhere we don't want it. So I'm hoping that my little hack here works. So the hardware cloth is to prevent, during intake stroke, or when the piston is being drawn into the crankcase, to prevent that steel wool ball from getting shoved into the reed valve, which would cause some problems. So what do you think? Think it'll work? All right, so we cleaned this up. I just used compressed air and a wire brush and just blew all the crap out. Anyway, so we got to get this cup lined up, put the bolts in, and then we'll impact the nut back on. I'm not going to waste my time with torque wrenches. I don't see any reason to do that. But yeah, so I think we're good. We got the crankcase breather, I think, all sorted, and yeah, I think that's going to take care of it. I think a lot of that oil, again, is from just being not overfilled, but spilled over the years. So I'm going to chalk it up to that, and I think I'm right. We're not going to do full send, but we are going to give it a few love taps. You want to wait. You want it to ring. I do it by the ring. When it ding ding ding, when it stops escalating, that's when I let off. So that's just about do her. Okay, this engine's looking pretty good. Now the muffler is got to come off soon, so we're gonna throw some EB nut blaster on these nuts. Okay, so I've got a 0.38 feeler gauge, 0.38 millimeter feeler gauge, which is factory spec for the ignition. So I just need to find the bolts. I think it were these two. And we'll put that back together. That should do it. Should be correct. All right, muffler comes off now. The gasket is on order. Let's take a look at the original one to see. Well, it wasn't leaking. You can see there are no burn marks outside of it, and it may even be reusable. But we're gonna just take this muffler and just dunk it in. And you know, these nuts didn't come off too hard. They were very, very easy to come off. So we'll just evaporust them because, well, that's cheaper than buying new ones. Hey, buddy. Let's see what else. I think we've got some parts in here already. Let's see what they look like. Got some bolts. They've only been in for a few hours. So we'll just put these in here. I know what they're for. And I think you do too. So let's just put it in like that. And any rust that's in that muffler will be gone by tomorrow. You know, it never ceases to amaze me the levels that Toro took to hide the identity of this engine. Nowhere on this engine does it say Suzuki. It is completely just absent. There are no Suzuki stampings, logos, nothing on this engine. And it just really blows my mind. But I bet if you pull the engine apart, like it says Japan everywhere. You know, Japan, 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 Japan. And the parts that come for it, you know, come in Suzuki bags. Nowhere does it say made in Japan by Suzuki. It just doesn't. I find that incredibly, not really frustrating, but you think there'd be a little S, that cool S logo that they have. Nothing. In fact, the only thing that is marked is the carburetor. But they made sure not to put a model number for the carburetor, so you cannot cross-reference it with other Mikuni carburetors. It's just a lot of effort was made to hide the source of this engine. I was kind of hoping that this Toro badge could be easily removed, but wishful thinking. It is not. I thought it was held in by like a double-sided tape or something, or not. I'm sorry, but a screw or something, a clip. But no such luck. I'm gonna have to. I don't want to strip the paint off of this, so I'm gonna wet sand the cover. It's a little rough. We're gonna wet sand it, and we're gonna paint it with engine paint. So I just got the engine shroud painted. It's about as good as I'm gonna get it. Again, I'm not looking for perfection. I'm just looking to make it look a little bit more presentable. As for the recoil, it is over here. And that came out just as well. I masked off the label, and we shot it with just black engine paint. I'm probably going to put some clear coat on this. Again, I have that. This stuff claims it has gas resistant properties, but that's only if it's really baked on, and we're not baking any of these parts. At least that's not the plan. The parts delivery just came for today, so we got a bowl. factory Suzuki bowl, part number 1324587C00. This number, I'm gonna have to look that number up because that could cross-reference to another carburetor, which could be a very interesting break in the availability of parts. But you can see how it's plated internally, and ours is no longer. So, the old one. Let's take a look. Let's compare them side by side. They could be the wrong part, you know. Would be my luck, wouldn't it? I like this makeshift engine stand I came up with. Let's take a look at these side by side each. Let's see if there's any differences. So we've got that, but the only difference I can see is this is square and this is not. I wonder if that matters. But otherwise, it looks like they're the same diameter. Hold on. Yeah, it's the same part. Worth $67? I think not. So we'll just kind of put that in place. This is our drain screw. Apologize for the poor camera work. I'm just filming with my cell phone these days, and I don't have a tripod set up for it, so don't worry. Anything that's of value, I will make sure to show you guys and gals. All right, I am now putting the bowl on. The screw fits, and I'm gonna grab a ratchet, and we will cinch it down. Make sure this screw faces us. Like that. That's how it came off. And just go ahead and tighten that guy down. Is it a 12? No, it's going to be like a 14 mil. And it's one of these. It looks like a 14 to me. So we're going to just slowly torque it down to compress that that brand new bowl gasket we just got. There we go. Carburetor is done. Paintwork is done. Now this is still soft. We've got to give this some time to harden, and it takes some time. So I'm not going to go nuts tightening stuff down over here until I could probably put the starter on. That's totally doable. Hey, buddy. I got a bunch of parts on their way. Let's see how the muffler looks. You know, evapor rust is usually pretty good, but it's just not touching the rust on this muffler. I'm going to have to take this over to the wire wheel, but it is not touching the rust. So we're going to have to go with a different plan of action for that. Now, this is the Muffler Shield. It is fully derusted. So I'm going to wash this off and we'll dry it out. Okay, so we got our pulley. We got our belt. We got our new brake plate. So these all have to be put together. Put together. Yeah. You get the idea. So I gotta find the brake plate, which I stuffed somewhere. There it is. So let's compare. Now this is an OEM belt. This is a Toro belt. And the one that we pulled off, I think has been replaced. This belt is in far too good condition to be 34 years old, but it's the same size. So this is all going to go to plan. Put this on like that. Now our evapor rust unfortunately has completely gone to shit, so I had to dump it, and I'm having to clean stuff now with a wire wheel, which is fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. So I believe that this bushing goes at the bottom of the pulley. I think it's the same distance. Yeah, it should be. Yeah, okay. Shouldn't really matter which way we go with it. So this way or that way. Does it really matter? I don't don't think so. This pulley is made a little bit differently than the factory one. This is a knockoff, although that is a Toro part number, so well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Anyway, I don't think it matters. But yeah, you can see that, you know, with these newer parts, you're already starting to see a decline in, really not necessarily a decline in quality, but they're no longer using Japanese source components. You know, which could be a personal preference thing, I guess, but that should fit. We'll lock it down with the impact. Oops, not the, I'm not using an impact, I'm using a drill driver. So this assembly is ready to go back on. Right? I feel like I'm missing, I feel like I did something wrong. Like I put it together backwards. But if you look at the old one, clearly the pulley was on the top. Oh, I guess that's how it goes together then. Yeah. And it looks like, I think we did it right. I think so. I had the bolt the wrong direction. It goes this way. And that actually can matter depending on the tolerances of the mechanism. There was a little bit of a Loctite on this before, but I'm not going to put it on there. I don't think it's necessary. I also want to cross-reference this part number. Well, it's a little late for me, but may not be for you. This part number cross-references to an outboard motor and is readily available for $25 freaking dollars. Not, that's the thing. You see, I'm going to hang on to that. The part number that I had was for a Toro part, and I could find nothing else to cross-reference it to. You need to see the package from Suzuki, because Suzuki is not going to make one bowl for one machine. It's absurd. So they're going to use parts from other product lines, and that's exactly what they did. Just like this pulley. Yeah, Toro charges like $1 million for this pulley, but it's really just a generic pulley. It's used on a lot of machines from a lot of manufacturers. Nothing special about it. We can throw this one away now. You don't need to keep this. Since we're here, I'm hot tanking my muffler. I've done the best I can do with this muffler. We hot tank cleaned it with an ultrasonic mix, and I've wire wheeled it. The evaporust was a bust. Maybe that rhymes. Because the evaporust that I have is NFG. That's Latin for no fucking good. It definitely went bad, and that does happen. That certainly happens. I need to heat this thing up to dry it out so I can paint it. That should do the job. Let that do its thing for a little while, and yeah. In the meantime, we're going to clean some stuff up. Well, smoke started coming out of here, so we know we got it a little toasty. It's still smoking. We'll let that cool off a little bit. But yeah, I wanted to get the muffler hot so I can dry it. And it looks like I burned out whatever carbon was left in there. So I get the feeling this engine was running a little rich. Sometimes it's the little finishing touches that make the difference. Muffler is not bolted in yet. I don't have the gasket yet. So the plan is to, once the gasket arrives, I am going to, we'll mount it, we'll put the, oh, look at how good this came out. This is all just evaporust doing its thing. And and that was it. After this, the Evapor-Rust has finally told me that it no longer wish to continue on, so out the door it went. Out the door I went. One bourbon, one scotch, one beer. I ain't seen my lady till I don't know when. One bourbon, one scotch, one beer. That looks a little better. What do you think? Anyway, so now we just wait. We wait for the rest of the parts. We wait for the paint to cure. We wait. Not much else to do other than wait. So once again, I cannot emphasize enough how much of a ball buster this job has been. Just because of parts availability and the lack of parts. They've been, yeah, I've got to reassemble these somehow. All these parts I'm going to have to clean in the ultrasonic. And that's the plan. I can't really clean these. Maybe I can. I don't want to attack those needle bearings though. Don't think I can replace them. That's the problem. Maybe we can flush them out. I'll try one side, see how it goes, and then we'll go to the other side. But all the clips and little doodads and ratchet straps and nonsense. I got one of those bins for each side. Oh yeah, I meant to cut a new piece of this. I think I have this exact diameter. This goes over the drive shaft. I believe the reason that this is here is because it prevents, if anything were to touch it, it won't grab on to like fibers and things in the lawn and wrap them around the drive shaft. It's actually a pretty stupidly ingenious idea, to be honest. So now is a pretty pivotal moment. We're gonna now do the clear coat. Now this is the this stuff is magic. It's really good stuff. One of my favorite products out of a rattle can. It is a durable, chemical resistant, fuel resistant, scratch resistant. It's the best clear coat money can buy, and it requires activation. What you do, if you just stick that on like that, and then press down like that, and what that does is it breaks a capsule within the can, and you gotta mix it for about a minute or so. And here's the problem. Once the can is activated, the clock starts running. You got 48 hours to use it. I've talked about this before. And you want to damn well be sure that your paint, your base coat, is ready for it. So we've let this dry for like 4 days. 5 days, I think. And I think it's good. So I'm going to try a few small pieces first. So before I ruin this paint, I'm going to do the backer plates first. They were painted after I painted this, and they'll be like our witness pieces. I think I did these wrong. That's all right. Oops. Oh, I painted the crappy side of each one. Whatever. Just noticed I did that just now. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch our pieces for, what's the word I'm looking for? You'll see the paint begin to blister if it's not mature enough. Here we go. because I've done this before where the base coat hadn't matured or fully cured, and immediately it started to blister within a few seconds, actually within a couple seconds. As long as it doesn't blister, we're good to go. Okay, I think we're good. Anything that's going to be touching the elements has to be cleared. Just dusty coats like that. That's all it takes. And we're going to watch for blistering. Because if it blisters, then we can't continue. We have to hold off, and then we have to buy another can. So now this piece had already blistered a little bit, but I didn't want to redo it. I figured it would be fine. Put one more coat on the backers. Recoat time, just don't. Just, yeah, it's kind of a bitch. But we have really good coverage. I think we're good. I think we can now proceed with the deck. So I'm going to move these parts back inside. Okay. Now this step is one of the last. This is it. After this is done, we're going to let it cure for a day or two, and then we can proceed with reassembly. I'm so excited. So I think I'll start over here. And work my way around. Always keep a wet edge. Now the nice thing about this stuff is it can be buffed. It's that good. And if it starts blistering on me, guess what? I'm not starting all over again. I'm just not doing it. That's just what it's gonna be. And I'm gonna be okay with that. Because, you know what? This is getting expensive and time consuming. Very expensive. Look at the gloss on that. And it will hold that gloss throughout the curing process. We got no blistering, really no contaminants. That's a pretty good paint job. Pretty good paint job. All out of a can. Not bad. Now for the unavailable PCV hose, I had to makeshift some old, well, it's actually new fuel line, but it works, it fits. Now this is interesting because the way the hose is fitted to the engine, it's done, where did I put the original one? It was here just a second ago. I dropped some oil on the floor, of course. So here's how the hose works. On the filter box side, it fits over a fitting. On the crankcase side, it fits into the hole and it's held in by compression. But because this hose has shrunken a little bit and it's gotten a little bit hard on the crankcase side, it was a massive leak. Oil's gonna get in that system, and where's it gonna go? Shortest route or the easiest path possible to the outside world, and that just happens to be through that hole. I was able to shove a 1/4 inch fuel line in there, which is oil resistant, and it should hold. I was going to go out and buy some hose that size, but this is free. Well, already paid for, sunk cost. It's gonna be the phrase of the day, sunk cost. Anyway, the oil filler, this is the new one. but I don't have the new gasket yet. So this is the old one. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not going to throw it out just yet. But the new one's new, so yeah, whatever. We're waiting for the new gasket for that. That should be in this week. By the time the rest of the parts land, I'll be able to assemble the engine and assemble the mower. It should be a one-day thing and done. One and done. Our clear coat is now dry to the touch. Give it a few more days to fully cure. Mower deck looks oh so nice. Oh so beautiful. Oh so shiny. I want to lick it. I want to put it on a stick and lick it like a lollipop. That doesn't sound right. Anyway, let's be honest though. This machine will be scratched to hell within just a few days of usage. I mean, and that's why I'm not going to worry so much about minor scratches and paint imperfections, because like I said, it'll be destroyed in just a matter of a couple of days. You see it's brightly painted. I have put the pertinent information back. This is actually covered over in Gorilla Tape, which is basically a very heavy vinyl product. I love Gorilla Tape because it will protect this from the elements. Sliding the gear train back in is the most tedious part of reassembly because there's a lot of parts to kind of cover and not really any good drawings to show it. So you kind of have to do your best, I guess. So far as I know, the wheels, yeah, I think I've got these right. Yeah, you don't want to mix them up. That would be very bad. I applied a little bit of grease, general purpose grease, on the axle shafts before I slid them in to kind of pre-lube that area. And the only thing holding these in, so these just slide right in to the dropouts in the chassis, and they'll hold it in place before we get the washers and everything back in. All right, so I got the drive pinions installed. See how they freewheel right now? As soon as the drive shaft rotates, they lock right up like they're supposed to. And then once you pull the mower backwards, they free up. So when you're driving along and you pull back on the machine, even after disengaging the drive, if you pull back the handle, it's still engaged to the transmission until you push it forward just slightly to knock the dog clutches out of position. I was actually kind of stressing out over this one because there are no clear instructions anywhere on how to assemble there's a lot of parts here. Okay, there's a lot going on in this assembly. A lot of parts, and if you look at the blow-up diagram, I mean, look at all those pieces. Each and every one is unique, and they're actually, in the case of the dog clutch, it's specific, it's not a dog clutch, it's a rocking key, but it's specific to the side that it's on. Everything else is universal. The gears are the same, clips are the same, everything else is the same. But it's a fairly complicated assembly, and I was kind of stressed out over it because when I took it apart, it's not like I could take notes because everything was caked in grease. Old grease, which is the worst kind. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to go ahead and just do some satisfying lubrication, if you will, of the assembly. I'm going to squeeze a little bit of grease on each side with my grease gun, and we'll make it all greasy. You don't want to overdo it. I only applied a dab of grease during assembly, but I didn't feel like I needed a whole lot. That should be enough. That should be more than enough. actually. That those needle bearings all nice and coated. Well, I got some assembly done. We got the gear train back in, the belt, the support bar. So this is the bar that gets pulled to engage the drive, even though it still has a neutral position. Everything seems to be fine here with these gears. I got to keep these in the downward position so that I can get the wheels on. That's where the nuts get slid in for the axles. I don't even have wheels yet. I have the old ones, but we're not using them. I got the grass catcher attachment. Just little things I can get off the bench to reattach to it. I've got a decal coming for this. And so far, she's looking like a lawnmower. Look what just showed up today. We got new wheels. Now look at the new wheels versus the old ones. They've added these slots, and I think those slots are for hubcaps that were used on certain models. But brand new wheels, fresh from the factory. But these are a later model wheel, again because of those slots. But we got nice new tires. Look at that. Front and back, I got the handle bolts, or the handle nut things. And I'll have to clean these up after they're put on. We got to put some grease on these. We got the front wheels and the back wheels. Now let's compare the tread. 34 years of usage versus, now you got to use the drive wheels as a comparison. But see, they're not really all that bad. They're worn, but not that badly. They're just a little bit of worn. But I figured, you know what? We're dumping $1 million into this thing, so why not a couple more $100, huh? The wheels for the complete set of 4 was $100, and again, they are OEM wheels. Is there anything else I ordered from this guy? Okay, so here's our O-ring. So it turns out that seal, that O-ring, is actually for the oil pump. So I figured I'd go ahead and change it, but it has a real oil pump. Like, no joke, this is a real oil pump. I wasn't expecting that. And you wonder why these engines lasted so long, whereas their American counterparts from Briggs & Stratton and Tecumseh, they just depended on splash lubrication. But these Japanese engines, they had real, honest-to-God oil pumps in them, pressurized lubrication. And that's why these engines are built so well. Now, or why they're lasting so long. One problem I have here is the belt is too big. I have the wrong drive belt, because at this point it only engages when this thing is pulled way back like that. That's not correct. It is the wrong belt, so we cannot continue assembling any of this until we have the correct one. I might be able to put the whatchamajigger back in, but other than that, I can't go any further. I'm gonna have to we'll just do the wheels at this point and get the height adjusters. We'll do the wheels, maybe start putting the handle together, but we need to get the correct belt. I do not have the original belt. I think I tossed it. Well, we got wheels. Look at that spin. Huh? You like that? Man, it spins forever. That's how your mower should work. You know, things should be greased and lubricated and smooth. Anyway, we need a new belt. Again, I still have the blade clutch belt, which is the correct size. I know that. The old one. But I don't have the old drive belt. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to find out what the... I'm going to cross-reference this part number and get... Maybe I'll get an OEM belt this time. I don't know. This belt is too short. Too long. It's too long. And because it's too long, I can't continue the assembly because it's like the first thing you install. Once I have the blade clutch drum installed, then I can install the rest of these parts. But that can't be done until I have the drive belt. It's a whole big thing. Still need the dipstick tube seal. Got the oil pump seal replaced. But slowly but surely she's coming along. I think I'm going to start putting some of the handle parts together. I think we're in a good position to do that. But yeah. Now the gear noise, that's normal. I don't believe you're supposed to grease that ring gear right there, or that drive gear. I think you're not supposed to grease it. And yeah, the pinion gear. Wheel pinion service. Remove wheel bolts. Side pinion off. Okay. Lubricate with anti-seize and assemble in the original order. They're talking about the actual clutch. But I don't believe you're supposed to grease that. Grease with number 2 lithium-based grease. Use a hand grease. The grease is for the grease fitting. But I don't believe you're supposed to grease the pinion gears. In fact, look at the original ones and see if there's any lubricant. No, these are dry as a bone. So I don't think you're supposed to grease those. The old wheels can be tossed. I'm not going to reuse them for anything. But you get to see kind of what it's going to look like. It's coming along. Got the danger decal. Got the serial number all recorded on there. Model map, all that. Everything's there. And this Gorilla Tape will protect it. Gorilla Tape should not be looked upon as a duct tape or a packing tape. It's serious stuff. It's seriously good stuff. Well, I did some homework and it looks like this is the correct size belt. It's a 35-inch belt. I just don't like the way it rides on that pulley. It just doesn't seem right to me. I don't know, but it does seem to be the correct size. The application, I don't know. But I got the cables all adjusted. Used my electric drill to confirm that it hits all 3 speeds and neutral. But honestly, I just it blows my mind because it shouldn't hit the belt like that. Maybe it was designed to. But 35 inches is the correct size. So, say that. Well, so we've got the drive system all set up. That means we can now assemble the underside. I'm gonna go on a limb here and say that this is okay. I don't like the way it hits it, but it's not rubbing anywhere. Well, it seems to be rubbing a little bit onto this post. But if you feel on this post has wear marks on it right where the belt rides. So yeah, I'm gonna say that's correct. It's we didn't change any pulley diameters or anything weird like that. So you got me. So I'm gonna start reassembling the underside of the deck. We've got the handle all put together. I mean, we're pretty much almost ready to rock. That's looking good. It's all looking pretty good. All right, so we started assembling the brake blade clutch assembly. This all has to be, because you got to put this on with an impact. And there's no washer or anything there, which is kind of strange, but it's the way God made it. So we're gonna leave it alone. This is all set up. This is all in place. We've got our belt is on. There's a belt guard that goes, oh no. I think that belt guard goes in first. Damn it. All right, one of the most difficult tasks to do during reassembly is getting this linkage all set up correctly. So the deal is you have to push this in with your knee while getting this bolt lined up with the hole in the pin, threading it in. It was a bit of a nightmare, I'm not going to lie. And but I got it done, and that's it. I gotta double check the hardware on that other one. One of the key things that you need to know is this link has to be in that arm before you put it in, because you won't be able to get it in after the fact. During normal overhaul and belt changing, I guess you really don't need to take that apart again. So that will never have to come out again. And yeah, there's enough brake pad material here. It's all brand new, so this is all going to wear in nicely. This is the newly revised part. You can see it rides a little higher on the drum. That's just how it works. All right, we got the brand new clutch shroud to protect it from debris. We've got the blade, brand new blade. That goes on like so. And you've got the scalp cap. Now I thought there were washers somewhere in this mechanism, but these are actually not them. So those, yeah, no, we just have these nuts. We got these nuts, and we're just going to go ahead and ram those on with a 5/8. Nope. Is a 9/16. I'll have to torque them by hand. This drill doesn't really, this is not a impact, this is just a drill, so we'll have to tighten those with a ratchet. And just like that, we're done with the reassembly of the blade clutch and the drive. We're just waiting for a few engine parts, and I need to send this guy home. So I'll do that right now. Again, I thought there would have been a washer on this. In fact, I think there should be. Because it doesn't look too cool. And that bolt is hideously long for the job, but that's what it takes. So let's do so this is our throttle. I have to figure out how that was routed, because I'm not 100% sure on that one. I've got a threaded post here. It looks like something goes here, and I don't know what, if anything. Although the cover, oh, I may have answered my own question. I think the cover actually threads into that hole. Yeah, and that checks out. Let's just test the blade clutch, see if that works. Can't run the engine right now. I don't have it fully assembled, but it rolls nice. Watch out for random objects. Okay. So if I pull this in, the drive engages. Of course, it can't because the engine's not running, but the belt tightens. Now if I pull this down, it pulls in both the blade clutch and the drive, and it releases. So if you just want to drive it, just like that, if you want the blade to run, that does its thing. If you don't want it to drive, this goes into neutral, it is in neutral right now. I may end up replacing the drive selector cable. That seems to be pretty worn out. But that actually comes as a complete assembly. The cable itself is not replaceable outside of this assembly, so you have to replace the entire switch, which sucks. But anyway, so I did scratch my handle, but that's okay. I'm going to be wrapping this with handlebar tape anyway, so that was always the plan. But the handle looks good. Let me just hold this over here. And she's almost ready to... I'm going to be needing this thing to clean up leaves. I think it'll do a better job than that thing. So we'll have to get it going soon. So, and the handle, I'm going to probably bump this up a little. Actually, I kind of like the height I have it. It's at its lowest setting. And I'm a short guy, so that kind of works for me. All right.